The meeting is called to order at 3:03 p.m. This is a regular meeting of the Education Outreach and Training Committee of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force, City and County of San Francisco. I'm David Pilpel, the chair. Our first item is roll call. Mr. Clerk Administrator.
On the call of the roll, Member David. David absent. He did call to let me know that he has the flu today. Member Oka.
Present.
Oka present. Member Highland.
Present.
Highland present. Chair Pilpel.
Present.
Pilpel present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. For agenda changes, I think since we don't have anyone else present right now, I think we'll take the website, item 4 first, and then we'll take items 2 and 3, 5, 6, 7, 8 in that order.
Without objection.
Without objection. So let's call item 4, please.
Item number 4, Sunshine Ordinance Task Force website.
Great. So let me introduce this, and we'll have some discussion. What you see, Victor, can we do something with the mic? It's a little too loud for some reason. Is it either an on or off? That's cool. Cool. Better, yeah. All right. Sort of. I was just getting feedback. Okay, so what we have before us is the website. What I'd indicated at the end of the last full task force meeting on Wednesday is that we would be looking at the website, not really changing the content, but maybe changing the presentation a little bit. So I guess the way I'm looking at the website is similar to how I approached the records of the task force, that we've got a lot of stuff on complaints, we've got stuff related to meetings, and then we've got sort of other stuff. So there are lots of other ways that we can look at it, but that was how I was proposing to do that. I actually wanted to start with meetings first, then do complaints, and then do the other stuff. Victor is able to page through it there, and I think Victor is also going to take notes on our discussions, and if we have recommendations that we can make on that. So I guess my first thought, if this is in fact the main page, I believe that either sfgov.org/sunshine or sfbos.org/sunshine is a shortcut to the main page. I think it would be good if both of those work as shortcuts. And I'm also wondering if we can get both of those /SOTF, so if someone goes to sfgov.org/SOTF, that should put them at the main page. Does that make sense? Okay. Victor, fair enough?
My understanding is you would like to have a shortcut with SOTF in the...
At the end, right.
Yes.
In addition to the Sunshine shortcuts, and if possible, from both SFGov and SFBOS.
We'll
see what we can do, but at least we've got that down. So from the main page, and I think we should deal with the main page sort of last, because that'll be the end of it. We've talked offline about having the most important material available here, so you don't have to click too many times to get to it. So the current meeting, the hot item, whatever it is, should sort of be here, and you shouldn't have to click 5 or 6 times to get to it.
The more shortcuts we have,
Use
the
the
better I like it. The less I have to click, the better I like it.
Good. Okay. So why don't we go to meeting information? Okay, so that's a piece of the board's, Victor, is this correct? That's just the extract from the board's weekly events that is drilled down to task force related things?
this is on the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force website itself.
Right.
The item, it lists the upcoming meetings.
But does this automatically export from the main Board of Soups page, or does someone have to manually put this in whenever we have a meeting?
I believe that it exports to the Sunshine webpage.
Automatically, because it knows
Yes.
it's a Sunshine thing. Okay. So I guess I'm good with this. We could think about whether to put this particular piece on the main page, for example, because that would reduce a click. Victor, maybe we should make a note of that to explore putting this on the main page. Is it people's sense that this is an important thing that people go to? I mean, among all the other things on the pages?
Well, let me think about that.
Okay, so that's why we're saying let's examine it. We're not necessarily making that recommendation right now. If we go to, let's see, on the left navigation, full task force.
Okay.
Okay, so here's where it starts to get interesting. We have agendas. Let's just pick any old agenda. Anything there is fine. Okay, so that page was a pretty standard format for the board. Now, this document is not a doc, is it a searchable PDF? Why don't we do a Ctrl F Highland? There you go. Yes, okay, that's good. I keep track of that guy. Okay, so just to digress for a second, my sense is that there are at least 4 different document types. When it's a document, you've got a doc that's in Microsoft Word, you've got a scanned PDF that's not searchable, you've got a OCR PDF like this that was created out of a doc with something, and you could have some other thing. I forget what the 4th thing is.
Victor,
Yes, yes.
are most of the documents available in searchable form?
I cannot say if it's searchable or not. I'm not familiar with that, those formats, but we do.
We'll look at some of these and we'll see that.
We create PDFs with various methods.
But that's what we're going to talk about. So, I remember. The 4th, I did remember. No, I don't remember. And inline HTML. There are some documents that are in here
Right.
that are just as HTML. So
Right.
what I would propose is that as much as possible, greetings, one second. So no one was here from planning yet, so we're hearing item 4, discussing the website. We were going to do that for a few minutes, anticipating planning, and then we'll get back to the item. So feel free to cool. Are you good with that?
I have to file something by 4 o'clock.
Okay.
So I was wondering on timing if I could leave at 3:40 or I could go do that and come back.
Do you want to do your filing and come back?
Is that okay with you?
Fine.
Let me guess.
We'll be here.
Property tax?
Yeah, it's all right with us.
Is that where you're going, property tax?
No, court.
Oh, good, because the line is
Not
around.
against this case. Oh, yeah. Is it
Okay.
around the corner?
Why don't you
I think Micah should help us with the website. He's qualified for that.
I could, yeah.
I'm just
Well,
kidding.
we're talking about the task force website, if you want to participate in that conversation. But if you got to do your thing,
Go
once
do
you
your
that
thing,
and
come back. That makes
Okay.
more sense.
Thank you very much.
Great.
I would like to mention that this format that we currently see online is
fine.
the standard format for most boards and commissions.
Right, yeah, no, we're not yet talking about the content, and we probably won't talk about the content of the documents, but in terms of format, what I wanted to say is, where possible, I would like this searchable PDF to be the standard, because I know that we have some other documents that are in different formats, and as much as we can standardize on that, then it's less subject to being messed with as a document, it's searchable, it's more ADA accessible, it's just, what you see is what you get, and I like that.
And on that note, I don't know if it's the right juncture, but the actual packets for each case that we hear, if that could be searchable as well, especially page number, because when you're looking at it online versus the packet, there's no correlation. You can't see the page numbers as you're scrolling down.
Some may be, some may not be. let's make a note of that.
Add that to the list for later.
Okay, that's cool. Packets, so,
Like I said, I'm not familiar with new technology or not, but we do have to manually scan in most packet material as they are handed in documents, paper documents.
so let's see what we can do, and maybe there's a way to marry those things that are, that can be searchable with those things that aren't. I don't know.
Agendas are definitely created in PDF, so those are not a problem.
Okay. Well, actually, they're created in Word, but then they can get converted to a PDF,
It
right?
depends on which system we're using.
It's complicated.
Yes.
All right, got it. Okay, so here we are in this thing. Why don't we, but I think we've got some general consensus around those points for the moment. So let's go back. That was May 1st. I think if we go to, I forget which one. On the left nav there, why don't we go to 2012? Okay. I think it was the minutes for November on the right side there. Maybe not. Well, one of them, what I was trying to show is that one of them was still a Word doc, was still in Microsoft Word. So,
Was done in error.
okay, so I think, and this is not going to be a quick exercise, and we're not going to do it before the task force or before this committee, but I think one of the things that we would like staff, i.e. Victor, to do is to go through and check for each of these what the document type is, and if we need to update that with something more recent to try to standardize it, we would like that. Again, that's not something that needs to happen overnight, but I think that's something that we would like to have happen.
Frankly, for me, I use my Acrobat reader quite a bit because if I can, I'm a very auditory person, so I have the Acrobat reader read the documents. I just
Rather than seeing it.
sit there and observe it.
And it can actually translate it to audio if it's
Yeah.
if it's a searchable document. If it's just an image, then you get nothing?
If it's a searchable document, yeah.
Okay.
It can do that.
So that's
But a scanned document, it can't.
gets you nothing. Okay, so that's another reason why we want searchable documents as much as possible.
Well, I think the crux of the matter is what Victor said, is certain documents are scanned page by page, hand by hand. So when we're ready to open that for discussion, let's get into that and see if there's any options around that.
Okay.
Or we can talk about it now if you want to.
I'm not sure if I understand the issue. I think we probably need to find out some more from IT for next time on that. Because my sense is that when they're putting together an agenda, that's doable, but the
It
documents...
sounds like it's materials that other people give
Provide.
him last minute, or they might email it to him, and it's something that's scanned, and therefore not searchable, and he'll then reproduce that.
Okay, so I guess
Right.
one of the follow-up questions there is, in addition to scanning an image to a PDF on the copier/multifunction device, do we have an option to OCR scan it, which is either on that device or on a different device, which can actually read an image and, as much as possible, make it into words?
I think a better question is, does City Hall own PDF machines that will scan it into PDF?
Okay.
I think the answer is probably yes, and then it's a question of requesting our access to that technology for the purposes of our documents.
Okay, and it may just be that they've got a couple of those, but the next time they update the copiers, we can make that part of the spec and say that all departments should have that. And so in 2 years, when we get a new copier, but we'll find out. We can find out. Okay, so why don't we go back? I think we're good with the minutes. Actually, let's pick a different year here, just to see something that's old. That's good. And just pick a sample agenda and minutes and see what we've got there. Okay, so here's an example of that HTML inline, which I can't stand because you can't, you know, if you select this, yes, it's certainly, what do you call it?
What do you know?
I suppose that the reader portion of it will work, but if you're printing this out, then you select part of it, it's print selection, the format is goofy. So again, if we have this elsewhere in a shared drive with the base document, if we can convert this into a searchable PDF, that would be better, and then we're more standard than having this inline HTML. Again, that will take time to go through all these pages and figure out, but I think that's kind of the standard that we would like to move to.
And of course, I for one, don't want to make someone's job more difficult than it already is, but that there's most of this stuff doable without standing on your head.
I do not know.
Okay, so
Most likely this would be outsourced to our IT department for
okay, so one of the questions is for what we're talking about, what is the level of effort required? Does that have a time and cost implication? And if so, is that reasonable? Can it be absorbed? Is that unreasonable? Do we need to request a thing for that, et cetera, et cetera? Understanding that none of this is high priority, drop everything you're doing, et cetera, et cetera. It's not that at all, but it's sort of what we want to move to, I would think. Okay, so that was an inline HTML. Can we go back again? Okay, and then down on this page. So it looks like we've got stuff potentially back to 1998. We're certainly required under the record retention policy to keep agendas and minutes forever. I believe we've got that as a permanent thing. One of the questions is, do we need to keep, or do we want to keep, agendas and minutes online as far back as we can? And I think that's an open question for us to talk about. It's for 3 years, at least 3 years.
at this time for newer documents.
Well, the ordinance talks about at least 3 years back. So are we, at this time, not removing older things? Is that the board's current practice?
I cannot comment on that right
Okay,
now.
so that's a question to find out how far back do we need to keep agendas and minutes online? And for the task force to think about how far back do we want to keep them? My inclination is to keep as much of this stuff online as possible as far back as we have it, but I'm open to other suggestions, and if there are cost implications to keeping it. I suspect that there aren't at this point because storage is relatively cheap. There would be some cost to go back and check all of these things in terms of format, but once we've done that, I think we're pretty well good for that year until and unless somebody's got a question about it. So that's kind of where I am on those issues. I think the last thing on agendas and minutes, I think we saw on the 2013 minutes, if we can go there for a quick second, and then I think we're done with this part of it. The January and February minutes are still listed as draft. We've already approved January and February, so I assume that we're just behind, and we have that as part of the checklist once minutes are adopted to make the changes and then to post the final?
I will check
Okay.
on that issue.
Okay. We certainly do want to put up drafts when they're available, but we also want to replace the drafts with final once they're final. So that's cool. Understanding that it may take a little time, and I know that we're behind in adopting minutes. That's not the subject of the discussion today. Okay. Are we good with agendas and minutes, pretty much?
I think so.
Chris, anything else? Victor, is there anything else that you would want to flag? Okay. And are you good? We'll go over the notes after the meeting, but are you good with the direction? Does that make sense, at least? Victor?
We'll discuss that.
We'll discuss it, but the requests at least make sense, and we'll get answers back as to implications. Okay, so why don't we go back, top left with the back. Okay. Why don't we go to, well, okay, so here's a question about where things are at. So on the far left there's a section called Documents. Why don't we go to that for a quick second? Oh, how very convenient. Thank you. So if we go down there, that's got the press release from this year, annual reports, and then towards the bottom there, where it's not necessarily intuitive, there are orders of determination. Okay, so that's under Documents, but then if you go to the left tab there under Filing a Complaint, where there are complaint forms, procedures, and how to submit online, then if you go down at the bottom of this page, that's all there is, including this inline HTML summary. So I'm wondering if we want to move the orders of determination from Documents to a new section just called Complaints, where sort of everything about complaints is housed, from how to file, possibly the log or some sort of status of complaints, and then orders of determination and anything else that flows. So it's sort of the complaints page. I'm just thinking...
Does that make it easier, do you think?
My sense is it might. I'm sort of open to other thoughts about that. I mean, do people think that Documents is a particularly intuitive term there, particularly how we're using it? Yes, Mike.
Completed complaints or decisions or something.
Or complaints and decisions?
Yeah, some action word rather than documents, I agree, is pretty nebulous.
Okay.
So someone can go in there right away and say, okay, and that hopefully be searchable by topic.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go in and look and say, oh, they've ruled on this before, and here's the actual complaint, here how it was filed, here's what happened, and they'll learn in that to be able to copy that complaint for something that they have, for instance. They'll know whether they have a chance, and it will give them some, practical advice as to how to file their complaint.
Okay. Okay. So I guess I'm now thinking more about this whole left nav section under Sunshine Ordinance. Maybe we should think about just having fewer tabs there. So it's like something about meetings, something about complaints and decisions, however we term that, and then something else about procedures and everything else.
What's under FAQ, Victor? Can you click that?
You go down there.
Okay, so that's useful stuff there. All right.
I do think that it's useful, but I think that it could also be put somewhere else, like there's a page that says About Us. Well, FAQs, I think, could be part of About Us.
I agree. At the bottom of our...
Right. Can we go to About Us for a second?
You're trying to narrow that menu down a little bit.
Yeah, see here, this has got, can we go down within that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. See, like this thing with the appointees, right? That could actually be a subpage that says, who are the members of the task force? Click on this. I'm not sure that for most people, knowing who we are per se is the most important thing. I think it's what the hell is this ordinance and what do you guys do would be most important, and then the who we are would be kind of the next level down. But again, that's just how I'm thinking about it. So I guess
So I'm looking at this from somebody that has no idea what Sunshine is.
Okay.
Someone's told them that they should go to the site and check it out. So About Us is a good start. I think certainly something that shows things we've decided on, that shows the format, what a complaint looks like.
I don't even know, we've got stuff buried in the agendas, but if we wanted to construct a
Pull out
sample complaint,
A couple of good ones that are sort of to the point and show the back and forth. I think that'd be useful.
greetings. We're talking about the website. No one's come from planning yet, and so we were going to see if they show up and then do 12L. So, welcome.
I'm here for the duration.
Excellent. Dave Curdo from Human Services. Okay, so
What about news, Victor? What's on the news?
I think that had some very old press releases.
Yeah, that should definitely either be updated or...
Orders of determination. See,
Well, I think our news is in the complaints and decisions,
Yeah.
or the agendas.
Under documents or something to that effect.
if we had a lot of news, maybe, yeah, not so much.
And contact? Your email address, I'm guessing.
There you go.
And cell number, Victor?
Never mind. Okay, so there are some other bits in here that we could get to. I didn't want to go through every little page, but I think we've got a good sense so far.
It'd be great, just on this thought.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have any, do we have any recorded sessions?
Recorded sessions? Yes, actually, under meeting information. Audio archive, full SOTF, and audio archive committees.
I meant actually video. We don't have video.
Oh, no, not video.
Even something that someone else has shot, do you have access to that?
We're not currently doing video in this room, and we don't have video. We do have audio from like the last
Have you
3
ever had a
years.
video of anything we've done? In
Not-
another room?
No,
Anybody
not
know?
to my recollection. 'Cause
Again, I'm just coming from the perspective, it'd be nice for someone to come on and just click on, see us in action, this is how it works, the back and forth, the Robert's Rules of Order and all that, just to show them, to get an idea.
Okay, so why don't we make a note of that? Could we have a meeting someday in room 400 or 416 so that we could have, and request SFGTV to cover it, so that we would have just one sample video of a meeting so people could see it? I don't know. It's just a question.
Yeah, we've been requesting video for a while, and we're not, this is not to say we're going to get regular, but one would be good. We could do a search also on...
We'll find out.
On YouTube. There might be some decent clips in there that might be worth putting up.
I think it's worth considering having one meeting with video, so we'll ask about that. We did mention sort of collapsing these left nav sections, so Victor will follow up on that. Can we combine some pages and restructure just a bit? Again, the intent is not to eliminate any content, but to organize it so that it's more intuitive with fewer clicks.
Okay.
And that concept of sort of the world of complaints, the world of meetings, and then everything else, does that kind of work for both of you? Okay.
I think so.
Okay. So I guess that's about all I wanted to do for the moment. Victor and I will work through these questions and issues, get some answers, and actually let's spend a moment here. Thank you for going there. So documents, we had that press release from last year, or from earlier this year, sorry, about the budget. annual reports. I think that's good. Can we go down a little bit? The application for boards and commissions, I think that could actually just be a link to the board site on that, because that's all that is, right? So that could just be a link if you're interested in serving on the task force. And in fact, we could put that elsewhere with the FAQs. If you're interested in serving on the task force, you need to apply to the Board of Soups, here's where to go for that. Boom. Policies and procedures, those are ours, and we should keep those. And record retention schedule should have a space in there. There's, some of these other bits, again.
We have a subcategory as review of meeting information.
Right.
Just review that also for documents to this various types of documents.
Okay, so we may be able to do that. That seems to me to be better than having these other sections here, which
Okay.
are sort of duplicative.
David.
I'd like this to be more intuitive, is the point.
Yeah. One thing that I'd like to do, at some point, if you hand out hard copy at the meetings, at any meetings, I, for one, would love to have the documents in 16-point font.
Okay?
Is that asking too much? Because
You can ask. I think we can make more clear that we would like for documents brought to a meeting, a
Yeah.
certain number, and we would like at least one copy in 16-point because we have a member who has made that as a standing request. So, I don't know if we need to write that up or if we can just make that a known standing request. Again, we can talk about that. But
Well-
that's fair. I mean, that's what you need in order to read it, so
Yeah.
you're a
Yeah,
member.
well,
and I get it.
basically, that's what the MTA board policy is.
Right.
If one member can't read it, then nobody gets it.
Right.
And I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
In general, I think that's true. There may be documents that just got created and either it was a document that they found in storage and wasn't that size, or, was copied from somewhere else. So there may be circumstances where it can't be made that way, but where it can be, we can make that a request. So, again, we'll add that to the list. Number of copies and 16-point for handouts, question mark. And for that matter, if there are documents distributed during the meeting, what some bodies do is note in the minutes that there was a handout and it was added to the file. So we could do that in the minutes. I'm not saying that we should, but we have options around that because it may not be obvious.
Well, that's not exactly what I said.
No, I understand, but I'm just thinking about how we handle documents at a meeting. So we have options around that.
Okay.
Anyway, I think we've got some comments and issues here. I would like to work with Victor and the clerk's office over the next month and try to formulate these as questions and see where we go and report back next month and do some further work on this.
Okay.
I don't get a sense that we're at odds about any of this and we just want to make the thing work. Victor, as time permits, I mean, the more you can direct folks to the website, the fewer calls you have to field, right?
Okay.
Bruce, anything else on this for the moment?
No.
Okay. Bruce, good?
I'm okay with it.
Okay. Is there any public comment on item 4? Seeing none. Victor, you and I will work on writing this up and communicating with whoever we need to talk to about it?
Yes, we
Okay.
will create a summary.
Okay. So why don't we continue this to the January meeting? Can we do that without objection?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I think that's item 4 for the moment. Thank you. All right. Given that planning isn't here and Mike is not back, why don't we go to item 3 without objection? Very good. Okay. So why don't we call item 3?
Item number 3, Administrative Code, Chapter 12L, Public Access to Records and Meetings of Nonprofit Organizations.
Okay, so let me introduce this, and then I would very much like to hear from Dave. You prefer Dave or David or Mr. Curto or?
Dave. Dave's fine.
Very good. Okay. So we introduced this last meeting. We've had a couple of complaints related to 12L from Mr. Pitts and over time from others. I put together a draft memo that's in the packet that may have been slightly readable or slightly not. So I guess what I wanted to start out doing, since there's some legislative history on this and actual implementation issues with departments, Dave Curto is the Contracts and Facilities Manager?
Yeah, Director of Contracts and Facilities for the Human Services Agency.
Absolutely. Okay. So I invited him to come here and talk to us a little bit about 12L and how at least Human Services, including Aging and Adult, views 12L sort of in the abstract, what it means and how you operationalize it in terms of contracts day to day and to some extent complaints. So this, take it away, if you would.
So we consider Chapter 12L a compliance requirement of all of our nonprofit contractors. So the way we go about it is we make sure that they understand when we're entering into a new contract with a nonprofit that they understand their requirements under 12L. And, you know, it primarily affects us in 2 ways. Number one is that they must have the 2 public meetings per year. They must post them in advance, file those meeting notices at the library and with the clerk. And then they also have to make the minutes available to us. When my staff goes out and does the fiscal and compliance monitoring that we try and do 1 time a year per contractor, it's one of the things that's on our checklist. So, first of all, did you have your 2 public meetings? If so, show us the minutes from them. Show us that you did indeed post them at the place you needed to post them, the public posting at public library. You send a copy to the clerk at the board. If they don't do that and they can't demonstrate to us that they have done that, then we list it as a finding. And then they either have to correct it and go up and find the documents to prove to us that they did do it, or it's a finding and we have to follow up and make sure they did it in the upcoming contract cycle.
And have these things come up as findings before?
They have, and a lot of them didn't know that, for example, they turned it into the clerk, but they didn't know they had to post it at the library. Sometimes the meetings, they'd have their public meeting, they wouldn't have a quorum, so they'd cancel the meeting.
So to do another one, but
You do another one.
Okay.
Correct.
And staff turns over at some of these nonprofits, so I'm sure there's that, but usually once they get dinged the first time, they get it and they fix it, and it's hopefully not so much of a problem?
Yeah, once we write it up as a finding, they get it, they know that we're going to be out checking on it at least once a year, either by a direct site visit or what we call as a self-monitoring, where we tell the contractor to send us in all their documents that are pertinent to our checklist. So they all do get checked on it regularly. And I think we found most of them comply with it. We've had a couple of oddball complaints with a couple of the nonprofits where they're holding their public meetings, but because they were headquartered out of the city, they were out of the city. And we thought, we could have a workaround around that. I get it if their board meets in Oakland or over in Berkeley, but we encourage them and even offer them space at the Human Services Agency. If they want to have their public board meeting in our Bourne Auditorium, we would allow them to do that. Because we don't want it so that the people they serve in San Francisco have to travel a long distance to get to the public board meeting. So that's come up a couple of occasions, but not too often.
I'm not even, let me think about that a little bit, because if you've got, and I think there were a couple of nonprofit housing organizations that probably weren't HSA but were more MOH that were headquartered elsewhere, and if that's the agency, they're the nonprofit, and their board is meeting in Washington or Denver,
Yeah.
what do you do?
It's come up to us,
Yeah.
we've had 2 complaints over about the last 6 years, and they were local, they just weren't in San Francisco.
Okay, but that's
So-
an interesting, I'll think about that. Okay, let's keep going.
And the other one is about having a complaint resolution mechanism for all of our nonprofits. One of the things we check on is we go out and said, okay, have you had any complaints? And if so, then we want to review that complaint file and see how you adjudicated the complaint. So if a client has a complaint against one of the nonprofits and they write it down, which we encourage them to do, then we want to see the response that the nonprofit made to that complaint and what efforts they took to resolve whatever the dispute was.
And that's with respect to their performance under the contract for whatever their service was, not specifically related to their compliance with 12L.
Correct. And
Although it
could-
may, but
Well,
it's usually more about the direct services.
yeah, it's more of a feedback. A lot of our contracts, we have feedback surveys that they put out to the clients of the service. And we want to see how the clients perceive the services as delivered by the nonprofit to see that people are happy with it. And conversely, if there's any complaints, we want to know what they're doing to rectify it. So we stopped short of them having a formal complaint resolution document or policy because it's a little hard for us to enforce on nonprofit boards to have that. However, we do, in our contract, we do want to see on a regular basis their complaint resolution. And by and large, most of them do have a policy, and it pretty much follows the policy that's in our contracts, where if somebody has a complaint, then they submit the complaint in writing, usually to the program manager or their case manager, or whoever it may be. And if it's not resolved there, it goes up to their director, and then to the director of the agency, and then ultimately to the board of directors.
Right, and actually, I think you provided me a copy of that, and Victor, do we have that in the file now, that one-pager from HSA, the 3 paragraphs?
Yeah, and that actually came, Mr. Chairman, from the Nonprofit Contracting Task Force.
Right.
We developed that, and then for a long time, they made it as part of the boilerplate of the contracts, and now it's just a reference document.
I do not believe it's in the file for today.
Okay, but it is, we have it somewhere?
Yes.
Okay, cool. We'll have that for next time.
And it's pretty much, we want our nonprofit contractors to respond to complaints the same way the department does. Right.
Okay.
So let's see, that's what we do on general compliance enforcement. But we do get, we'll get whistleblower complaints that come in through the controller's whistleblower program. Sometimes we get direct complaints from clients. Over the years, I've become pretty close with Mr. Pitts. He's not shy about picking up the phone, and we talk him through his problems and put him in touch with our program people who then oversee it. So we try and resolve them as best we can, because we don't want unhappy clients, but in some of these clients, no matter what you do, you're never going to make them 100% happy. So we've done stuff like put them with different service providers, made sure they got some specialized case management. It depends on the situation and the client themselves. So we try and be as accommodating as we can to make sure that they're getting the services they need and their services that they want to receive.
Okay, so let me try to bring this up 1 or 2 levels here. In the city's relationship with some of these nonprofit organizations that have contracts with more than one city department, and I haven't looked at the list recently, but there are certainly a number of them.
Yeah, there's probably 130 out of 1,500 nonprofits in the city that are shared between departments.
And some of those are pretty big money in a lot of services, different
Yes, they are.
programs. How, both through the Nonprofit Contracting Task Force and there's another thing that's now,
Yeah,
Forget
we
what
have a
that's
joint steering committee on monitoring.
Okay.
It's headed by the Controller's Office. This is about the 5th year it's been in place. where all the city departments come together.
Or at least the big ones.
And on all the joint shared ones, we do what's called a risk assessment, and we go through the contracts to see if any one department has had any problems or issues with that contractor. And then we decide each year which contractors will be jointly monitored. And we put together a team of, say it's HSA, DCYF, and Department of Public Health that funds somebody. We'll put together a team of people so that we go out as a unit and do the same monitoring, and we follow the exact same compliance checklist that HSA would or DPH would or DCY would individually. And this way, we can both share the results amongst the departments, and we only have to make one site visit rather than 3 separate ones.
So that's good, that's cool. If I, either as a client or someone concerned with 12L compliance, has some issue with one of these entities that sort of has these relationships across the city, is there something in place where the particular department that holds that contract would hear it and resolve that dispute rather than necessarily the largest or the smallest or whoever drew the straw that year for the compliance check?
Yeah, generally the way it goes is the department who has the greatest amount of funding with that contractor is the lead agency for the monitoring.
But they would liaise with whoever.
Right. So if the complaint, say, HSA was the lead agency and we had DPH and DCYF,
Right.
if the complaint was specific to one of those departments.
Right. My concern is the medical care on that thing. So you would say, actually, you want the DPH part, and you liaise with your peers
Right.
at DPH and would find the contract person there who handles their piece.
So if one department had a complaint specific to their service, then that would be written up in the joint report, and also it would be a finding in the joint report.
Okay, but
the corrective action would be strictly between that department and the contractor if it was specific to their service.
Okay, that's in terms of the monitoring, but if there was an individual bringing a 12L complaint, they would also get routed ultimately to that person handling that particular piece.
Generally not. I mean, there's not a mechanism to contact the joint city steering committee.
And how often does that group meet?
They meet once a quarter.
Okay.
Once a quarter.
To review the plan, to check on the plan, to update.
To set up the monitoring plan, to make sure that the monitorings are done, everything was documented, and everything was posted. All the results of the joint monitoring are posted on Department of Public Health's COOL system so that anybody can go in and see the efforts that the Joint Monitoring Committee made. So if I was going to contract with an entity that I'd never contracted before, I could go look up their past performance history on the website. And
That's not a public website, though.
no, it's a city website.
It is a public website?
Well, no.
No, it's for city staff.
It's for city staff,
Okay.
but the documents on it would be subject.
Public documents,
They'd be
right.
public documents, yes.
Okay. And still, the 3 largest departments with these 12L contracts are HSA, DPH, and DCYF. There are other
Yeah, I
city
would say those are the
departments.
big 3.
MOH, Rec Park, PUC may have smaller things, but the vast majority really are those big 3.
Yeah, and the smaller departments are now a part of the Joint Steering Committee, so they are represented there now, where in past years it was mostly the
Sheriff on the
large
garden
vendors.
project and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I wanted to follow up with the memo, but I wanted to give the other members a chance. Chris or Bruce, did you have anything on this?
Nope.
Okay. So then just to conclude, in the packet, I don't know if you had a chance to look, actually at everybody here, there's a draft memo that I put together. It's starting on page 143 of the packet, and it's cleverly labeled draft all over it. I was not intending for us to finalize this today. There were still some pieces that I'm working on here, but I would like to be able to disseminate this early next year to all the city department heads, Peg Stevenson from the Controller's Office, Debbie Lerman, who's on here, the folks on the joint, what is it called again, the Joint Monitoring Task Force? The joint...
it's the Joint Steering Committee.
Joint Steering Committee, excuse me. Okay.
Yeah.
Because they really are the people on the ground on this. And what I was attempting to do via this document is set out some of the concerns and perhaps policy guidance from the task force as relates to 12L. There are some things that I think are pretty clear in the law and are pretty obvious to everyone in the system, and there are other things that are a little more complicated, and I'm really wrestling with this issue of when an entity becomes subject to it because they've met the dollar threshold, and when they're no longer subject to it because they no longer are at that dollar threshold.
Yeah, duration of it has come up in the past too. Where if someone was of the dollar level that they had to comply with it, and then for whatever reason they lost the funding or they went down below it, we've had requests still made, and I think the way we look at it is we can only compel the nonprofit for that time period during which they were required to be in accordance with it.
Agreed. And so I guess where I was headed, and this is in here somewhere, I forget where, is that there's something about $250,000 within a year. So my initial cut was to say that they're subject to it for at least 365 days from when they become subject to it. If they have continuing work and continuing obligations, then those responsibilities continue. But if the notion is that community representation, access to financial information, and open board meetings are the three big requirements, that's only meaningful if it's at the time when they're doing work for the city. If it was beforehand, it doesn't mean much, and if it's afterwards, it also doesn't mean much. It's when you're doing the work that you want to say, yes, they're representative, yes, here's their finances, here's, that's the whole point of the transparency. So that's what I was trying to get to here, and if that's the consensus of the group, I think that guidance would help the joint process and the monitoring. It also seemed to me that things like, and I appreciate that you're looking at not just the notices for board meetings, but the minutes. That's cool. The financial information packet, I don't think it's just that someone makes a request and then they put it together. My sense was that they should have one and be able to demonstrate that as part of the compliance review. Oh, no one called and asked for it last year, but had they, here it is, we put it together on this date, and it was available all year if anyone had here. Right. So it's those kinds of things that I think would better demonstrate compliance.
Yeah, and most nonprofits, they have to be in compliance with the Office of Management Budget Standards A122, and if they receive more than $500,000 in federal funding, they have to go further and do the A133 audit.
Okay.
But what we found...
And the state AG's office probably has other requirements, maybe not.
Not so much on nonprofits.
Really? Okay.
They do have to file, they have to file their annual tax return, which is called a 990 form with the state. We always ask for that when we monitor, because that's the most, to me, it's the most telling document. The financial statements will give you a picture of what the organization did in a year. But what they're reporting on their taxes is our program costs were X, our administrative costs were X. We want to make sure that that's in jive with what their accounting records show. And most nonprofits will provide their financial information, their annual reports, their annual audit reports, to anybody upon request, regardless of this chapter.
They should. Okay.
Because they're a public benefit corporation, so their records should be public.
Okay, so if you had any specific comments right now, happy to take those. Otherwise, again, my intent was to distribute this next year and get comments from others before we finalize it. But
yeah, I think my only comment is, and I know that in your draft you've gone through it pretty thoughtfully. We just want to make sure that there aren't requirements here that live on forever that we have no ability to enforce. I think that's our only concern from the contracting end, is if it's in the contract, we can enforce it, and, like the contract, it has a term and duration.
Okay. So that's fine. If we're making a suggestion about a way of doing business that we're not doing now, if that's worked into the boilerplate for future contracts or amendments, that's fine. I'm not trying to bind anyone, but just to make the system more workable where there are some ambiguities. So I don't think we're in disagreement about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
Look forward to further comments on that. Bruce or Chris? Okay. So that was discussed. Is there any further public comment on item 3? No. Okay, seeing none. Again, I would like to continue this to our January meeting, and hopefully at that time we can finalize this document and send it out to department heads. Do you think that would work? And
Yeah,
you
I think it's
would
the
be
most-
able to, and you'd be able to respond in writing through Trent?
Yes, absolutely. The department
Okay.
heads always forward it to the
Okay.
contract folks. And, and I just want to point out, there is now we're having a quarterly contracts meeting between all the city departments, just their
Which is
contracting
not the joint
folks.
meeting, it's a different thing?
This is a different meeting that we
Okay.
just started. We started about 2 months ago.
Okay.
And it has all the contracting entities of the city, including the PUC, Rec and Park, everybody. So that's always a good forum, too.
And OCA coordinates that, or?
No, actually, we're coordinating ourselves between
Okay. But
Ivy
everybody's
Fine of the
involved.
PUC and myself.
Excellent. And Ivy's great.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
always it's a great forum to put this stuff out of, because we compare amongst contracting officers, what have you run into, what's the problem here.
And that group is meeting again, let's say in January?
Yes, they'll be meeting again in January.
Okay, maybe I can talk to you about going to one of those and getting some input from them. Okay, because I think we wanted to make this more of a collaborative relationship rather than just, we get a complaint, it's dumped on our desk, now what do we do? I think there's a lot more that we can do beforehand to try to stave off complaints and to get everyone on the same page about the
Yeah,
requirements.
and I think there's great value in having the city departments respond to complaints in a like manner.
Right.
It makes a lot of sense and makes it easier for everybody to document.
And these requirements in 12L are actually not that onerous. It's either you had a public meeting, you had public involvement,
Or you didn't.
you sent the notice, or you didn't. You somehow tried to get community representation on the board, you had a packet together, or you didn't. It's not really that hard. It's not a full-time staff person. It's none of that stuff. So, okay. I think we're good. Again, we'll continue this to our January meeting. Can we do that without objection? Okay.
No objection.
So ordered. And
Thank you.
I had asked for public comment. I'll ask again, is there any public comment on item 3? Seeing none, public comment is closed. We'll continue that to January. Dave, thanks very much, and you and I will be in further contact about it. Great. So there we are. That's the good news on 3 and 4. The bad news is let's go back to 2, and I still don't see anyone here from planning.
Item number 2, file number 13024, hearing on the status of the order of determination of Mika Ringel against the planning department for allegedly failing to provide requested records associated with the provised development of 480 Potrero Avenue.
Okay, well, here we are on this. I understood, Micah, come join us, we'll chat a bit. I had understood from Lulu that she was going to be here. We did get an email on Friday from Jonas Ionen, who's the new commission secretary
Officially, yeah.
officially now, at planning, saying, Victor, I'm not available Monday afternoon as the new custodian of records, and given the nature of the item on the agenda, I would like to be present. Therefore, I'm respectfully requesting a one-week continuance to December 16, 2013. Thank you in advance for your consideration, except that we don't meet every week. We're not the planning commission. But it was a respectful request, so we note that. Anyway, I guess what my intention on this item was to try to do, and Dave, feel free to stay or go as you need to, but thanks.
Can stick around for a little while.
Oh, if you learn something, let us know.
When did we get that letter?
This came in Friday afternoon.
Why didn't we tell Micah that? He was up here earlier.
I'm sorry, did we not, were you aware of that? That Jonas was unable to be here today?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Jonas wasn't really part of my complaint.
He was not, but we
Other than
requested.
he is part of the department as a whole, so I
And
understand.
as we were going to get into, public records and operations was going to move under him since he's now the commission secretary. That's what I had understood was going to be reorganized within the department.
Sure.
So-
And I definitely respect that you're looking at the larger picture.
Right. So that's what I wanted to make clear, is that the two things that I thought we were going to do today, hopefully, and we'll talk a little bit about it, but I don't see that we're going to get that far with it, is to find out the status of your particular complaint and records request. What is it that you were looking for? What did you get? What was on the CD that we saw on Wednesday, et cetera, et cetera? And so to deal with that and either refer it back to the task force, keep it in committee, dispose of it somehow, deal with that, and then deal with the larger issue of how does the planning department handle public records requests.
Sure.
And so that was the larger issue.
I mean, I could answer some on behalf of the planning department because I've made several records requests, and they've
We all have
complied
some
with
familiarity
others.
with that, but
They've complied with others in a way that their non-compliance with this one is most suspect, and this has been the ongoing case. There's nothing that is even similar to any other records request. The zoning administrator has no problems turning over emails.
I think the point is that it's
Other-
inconsistent, and we're interested in standards and consistency where that's possible. And something like planning that's very address and case driven and is about records ought to be about understanding the request and complying with it as quickly as possible and getting it off their desk. And to the extent that that's not happening is the extent to which we're displeased. So I think
There
that's
was
my
a-
sense. Oh, one second.
Sorry.
That's my sense of where we're going with this. Does that make sense, members? So why don't we just start with where you were up through Wednesday, what was on the CD?
What was on the CD, sure.
And I just want to be very clear, based on the packet material and the information that was before us before, what it is that you were looking for, what you've gotten, and what else is there, if anything. Because I
Sure.
really would like to put that
Sure.
as much to bed as possible.
Well,
And
how
then we'll
about-
go to the larger
Do you want me to
issues.
start at the beginning or what I got on Wednesday? Backwards or forwards?
Just if you could encapsulate what you
What
were
was on the CD?
seeking.
What was I seeking?
What
Sure.
were you seeking to begin with, just as quickly as possible?
What I was seeking
and then
was
what you've gotten so far.
compliance with the order of determination. You had missed that hearing.
Start back at the beginning. You were asking initially for what?
I initially emailed Don Lewis, environmental planner, Ben Fu, city planner, requesting the complete case file for the project. I had been advised that there were public case files and internal case files. I was told to request not the administrative record,
Right.
but the complete case file, including their correspondence. I was told it would most likely be surprising to Ben Fu that I was asking it, and so to expect some pushback. And the pushback I got was surprising, actually.
Okay. Let me just jump in for a quick second on that. There's a lot of material
Sure.
in the packet. We've been through this.
I can go through
few
pretty...
times.
Environmental planner Don Lewis.
No, that's fine. What I'm actually looking for, your original complaint is on page 33 of today's packet. I think we're okay on the time.
Page 33 is this today's packet.
Of today's packet. Do you have that there or in the binder?
Yes. I requested a copy of the complete case.
Right. So
Well,
what I'm
that's
looking...
the-
hold on a
my
second.
original complaint, yes.
Hold on a second. The March 31st original complaint, I haven't found that in the packet. Do you know if that was ever submitted? Because I was trying to look for that
Oh.
in context.
Yeah, that
It
would
may
be
buried
the
in here
initial
somewhere.
email, because I know I've flipped past it, and it said, it's something along the lines of, Dear Mr. Lewis and Mr. Fu. So I guess if I were to go back.
All right.
Now that's the how you guys
While we're
work?
chatting, if you can...
Sure, page
find-
133.
Excellent.
No.
Nice try.
Oh, no, that's right. Page 133, for example, because I sent ditto emails to both planners. Dear Mr. Fu, Dear Mr.
There it is. Okay.
Lewis,
Cool.
in preparation of the hearing scheduled for May 16th, 2013, I'm requesting a copy of the complete file for the proposed development at 480 Potrero Avenue. Please include all documents in addition to any emails and/or other electronic forms of data which you have for this project. Please let me know when you expect this information available for pickup, assuming I could have picked it up. Regards. Don Lewis promptly replied, explaining that it wasn't available for pickup.
Okay, but hold on a second. Although we've already adjudicated the complaint, it seems to me in reviewing it, that's pretty clear. I'm looking for the complete file for this address, right? They may say, well, what do you want? Well, what do you want? Well, that's what you want.
Right. And that's why it doesn't explain what I was given and what I had asked for. So Don Lewis promptly responded, and I went in the very next day to view his case file. And I found much missing. In his correspondence folder, there were 12 pieces of correspondence, none of my own, which were substantive. And then there were things referenced in the so-called negative declaration that were supposed to, they were referenced as being on file in the case file. And whereas I had gone to the planning department and had the case file in front of me, they were not there. And so I had never seen a case file before, and because the planning department segregates records as a policy, I guess, it's what they do, I needed to see Ben Fu's case file, because maybe they were in his. Ben Fu hadn't responded to my initial request for 10 days. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to sort of walk a little bit here between your request and the way they handle records, since you asked for everything, complete file, and you specifically said all documents in addition to any emails and other electronic forms of data, which pretty much reads as everything.
Which I later actually
Okay, hold on. Because you
explained to be...
Okay, if you had to clarify, that's cool, and I recall seeing a clarification email with the case number. But in particular,
No.
it doesn't, well, hold on a second. Regardless of how they keep materials in their paper files as opposed to their electronic files or email, they need to have them all organized in a business-like fashion and be able to find them. If they want to keep them separately for their own reasons, that's, I guess, okay, but when someone makes a request and says, I want all of this stuff, they need to produce it in this case, in the way that it exists. And to not have stuff in the file and to not say, oh, there may be some stuff that's not in the file, but if so, we've got it on disk and we can put it on a CD and, that'll just take 20 minutes, no problem, right? They need to understand that, and if they're not doing that for you and they're not doing that for others, they need to be doing that.
Oh, that's correct. You were absent the first task force meeting when the matter was first heard, and the planning department was found to be in violation of collectively, unanimously, 2 matters. One of them was not keeping files in the business-like manner, and the other one was, I can't recall off the top of my head.
I think not producing the materials on a timely basis.
Right, but the 2 votes that, although unanimous, voted for, there was not a super majority, were the willful and the were 2 acts that were counted willful. You would have to look at the off the top of my head. I don't know the.
And I'll come back to that. Hold on one second.
But, yeah.
1 second.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to ask Micah.
Yes.
You were handed a CD
on
Wednesday. What was on that CD?
Sure. On that CD was 2 files, and we all looked at the Don Lewis one. Victor, as an example, pulled it up, and there were emails there. So we thought, look, there's substantive compliance. There were 2 files. One of them was for Don Lewis, and one of them was for Ben Fu. In my original complaint, Ben Fu, who didn't respond for 10 days, told me to ask Lulu Wong, who didn't respond to me for 10 days, who, when I did get the case file, his correspondence folder was completely empty, has never really complied. On that CD were 7 emails for Ben Fu. And so whereas it looked like there were many for Don Lewis and that there was a little bit of compliance, if we'd only opened up the other folder, would we have seen that there were 7 emails for 4 email conversations, and those I had seen before, and I've had at least 70 with him. There's emails of him to other members of the department, and I've received their emails from asking similar requests, and so to not have that one is suspect also on the CD, I wanted to let you know that that CD was not prepared. The CD was made the Monday prior to the hearing, which was on Wednesday, I think. 2 weeks prior was when the IT had actually run the request because they left a log. And the request was run from August 1st forward of 2012, but it showed the index of files, of emails. And so the index exists, whereas we were told it was on Lotus Notes and it was untouchable. All of that existed, and all of that existed 2 weeks prior. And so there's another reason why I'm only getting them from August 1st forward for only some of the planners, but not all. And I also wanted to state that that request, by the city only being made on Monday, that was the last day to ask for a rehearing request, which Commissioner Pilpel suggested I do with the Board of Appeals. That was actually the final day, and I believe that was the reason why they're starting to release some of the information. And indeed, it was great, but, and again, when it even says in the complaint that I asked, can Ms. Wong not request an IT admin go onto the servers and run a search for 480 Potrero? Now, understanding computer searches, if you put 480 Potrero in brackets, you'll get anything that's inside the brackets. The search was run for Don Lewis with 480 Potrero Avenue spelled out in brackets. So if most people in America, AVE or AV, or if you're in Canada, you know, they abbreviate. So anything abbreviated, if it did not have the full term 480 Potrero Avenue, did not appear on that CD.
As I was reading through the documents, I noticed, and I can't find the page right now, but you actually got a CD that was blank.
I got a CD that had Don Lewis's name on it and a folder that was supposedly copied from the iDrive, and yes, in his folder it was blank.
Was blank.
And so it's a game, and I'm happy to get a little bit more information here and there. Indeed, I got great information on the last CD, but the fact that they gave it to me well after the last administrative appeal could have been had, it is willful. I don't know how to persuade it anymore other than explaining the entire case or why I needed it. I don't know how many cases go on this long.
Some do, some don't. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Mr. Pilbel, as it says that your lawyer wrote up in the memorandum of the complaint, that finally he reiterated 4 categories of documents that he continued to seek: receipts for any newspaper ads, articles published, dates or trip logs for sites, visits, minutes of meetings, phone calls, and electronic data, including digital photos, PowerPoint presentations, word processing documents, spreadsheet files, PDFs, et al. And that was really what I wanted, was anything that had to do with the project. And the strangeness is that, you know, Ms. Wong could find historical documents from the 1950s archives, but she couldn't find the 2002 case file that had pictures of the old building that I was most looking for.
Micah, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
That interesting information you talked about, the the index log, is
Yeah.
that something you can send us electronically or?
Sure. Yeah, it's on the C. I'd be happy to. I mean, and on that, in that index log of emails that it searched for, I can tell you now that Ben Fu's been at the department for almost 10 years because it was able to search his files for 10 years. It just could only pull, okay, so I can show you how the search term was. What's tricky about it is it's inside of a PDF that PDFs can have attachments inside in their native format. And the native settings for Adobe PDF Reader won't open up a zip file inside, which is how they use compression. And so I could put it in your folder right now, but I would have to go into your registry settings of your computer to add to the whitelist of file types that it can open.
okay.
So what we're asking for is if you can do all that. And
Oh,
then
I have it. Yeah, I'll send it
and
to you at home.
Send it as a hard copy or
Oh, definitely.
already like
Definitely.
laid out.
If you can make it into a document that you can attach to a thing to send to Victor, then
I'll
we
be
can have
happy.
that in the file.
I'll be
that
happy
work?
to.
I think that would work. And honestly, from all that I've heard, and I don't know
Yeah.
if members of people, you agree, I mean, this, the fact that they're not even here, not even present, I'd like to refer this back to the task force and start looking at some of the willful things that we voted on last time, and perhaps put this back in front of the full task force and add those categories to it and escalate it as necessary. I don't think I need to hear any more to convince me.
Well, okay, so here's where I am on that. I am actually much more inclined to do that, and were we having a early January task force meeting, I would do that today. What I would prefer to do today, and it's not, part of it is because they're not here, and I'm more peeved about that.
Second time, Dave
Hold on.
not shown up.
Okay, just give us a moment here. But part of it is because I think just referring it elsewhere, in this case, wouldn't get the guy the stuff. And I still want to get the guy the stuff, and I also want to deal with the department and whether there was a violation that they need to get dinged for, and I also want to deal with their procedures. So I think that we now are at sort of three different areas of thing. So what I would like to do now, given what we know, Mike has agreed to print out the thing, get it to Victor, and Victor will send a copy to you before the next meeting, so you'll have a chance to look at that.
It actually should be in the packet for everybody.
We'll have it in the packet, but if you want to look at it beforehand, we can do that too, whatever. I would like to be more clear, or as clear as we can be today, about what it is that he was looking, just hold on, you'll get a chance, okay? What it is that Micah was looking for. I want to do another pass with planning, so if we need to rerun the search with 480 Potrero and not Potrero Ave, if we need to make a request for emails on the prior email system, not the current email system, because apparently there was some change there, possibly. Whatever it is that they have to do, I want to be sure that Micah gets the stuff that he asked for as soon as possible, because I'm not convinced that that's going to happen.
Well, I think
any
we
other
can
way.
do all these things at the same time.
We
You
can.
can almost guarantee that's not going to happen.
We can, and I also want to hold a hearing next time with planning present on what their procedures are, and if we need to open a new file to do that, we will do that. So I would like all of those things to happen, and I want to, I guess what I'm saying is I want to wait to refer it to the full task force until January. If we were to do that at our January meeting of this committee, it would still get to the full task force for the meeting of January 28th, 9th.
It would be the February
It would be
meeting.
the February meeting, because our January meeting is only going to be
Special
complaints.
Right.
So we would still get it to the full task force so that we would be able to refer. And if they want to have one last shot about, oh, gee, we didn't, whatever, we'll hear that. But I'm telling you right now, I'm not feeling very good about this. I was, as you know, I was on the fence last week. We said, can you be here Monday? Can you, somebody that,
Yeah.
hello,
Yeah.
and they told me as recently as Friday that Lulu was going to be here and that she would try to get either Tom or Jonas. Well, I'm sorry, 3 o'clock.
At this point, we're
20.
past Lulu, and that's where we have to escalate this.
Right, well, and I don't know that, they need to take this seriously as a department, and either they are or they aren't, and so far, it doesn't look so good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a quick question, Micah. 480 Potrero, give us what's happened there? What has been built? Where are they?
Nothing's been built. There were, I'm just one person who volunteered for their neighborhood group,
Right.
thinking I know how to go through case files. And so I represent 200 people who are against a project, you could say. And it went to the Planning Commission, and the issues we raised at the Planning Commission were issues that I can now confirm from those emails, a cover-up. And so that's why I'm really inclined to say it needs to go to ethics, or how can I get it to ethics? This guy can get the emails, he's pretty confident, through court order or through discovery now, which is what it's been pushed to. But what has happened is that there were two appeals, one from me and one from the neighborhood group officially, to the Board of Appeals, to the Board of Supervisors. Both of them were raising similar issues, and had I had this information just days prior, I could have requested even the rehearing request, and the neighborhood group could have requested the rehearing request. And so I appreciate trying to get me the emails, and as much as I would like to say I don't want them anymore, at this point, to me, it's useful that they're not providing them. I don't know how to explain it other than I've tried so hard, and I never thought I would be in this type of... And they have a system set up. I think their system's actually quite well. I've made a request to one planner,
Well-
and it's trickled down, and Lulu's called me and said, here's what you asked for.
I think I pointed out earlier, their responses are inconsistent. Some days you get the right person and the stars line up and you get what you need. Other days, he's out, she's out, he didn't, I forgot, they didn't, oh, the CD was da-da-da, and you're screwed. So that's been my experience, and I think that's what we've heard from people
Yep.
over the years, is
Yep.
it varies.
So I have a question, Commissioner Pilpo.
Member, chair, whatever.
Yeah, thank you. Member Chair,
Don't promote.
Board Member, Chair Pilpil.
Yeah.
What more do you have than an order of determination that they've already not complied with?
Well,
Is there levels of them, like a level
No.
2 or a... Because I thought that was
no,
the...
but we still, in my view, we still haven't gotten you the stuff that you were asking for. And that's my first concern, is if you can make clear what the stuff is, and you have, then they need to get you the stuff, and if they're not getting you the stuff, then we need to beat them over. We need to help ensure that you get the stuff. Then I think we deal with what we do with them for not getting you the stuff, but the first and most important thing is to get you the stuff. As you've just laid out, had you had the stuff earlier, you would have been in a better place. Let me say a couple of things, and then let's try to wrap this up. I would, again, advise you to talk to Cynthia Goldstein or Victor Pacheco.
Please,
Okay,
by all
I'm
means,
just-
they won't. They're
I'm just
firm in
saying-
their rules.
Let me just say, Cynthia Goldstein or Victor Pacheco can walk you through the rehearing request and the jurisdiction request. You may be at the point now where you could still submit a request for jurisdiction with the Board of Appeals for jurisdiction on a rehearing request based on your history. I don't know if you can, but you want to, and I don't want to talk about that any further, but you can pursue that with them and see if you have any chance with them.
Well, would the task force like to maybe vote on a recommendation that it go back? Because that is a possibility.
That's actually not within our scope. I'm just giving you...
Likewise, it's not within theirs. It
Okay,
is,
well,
the permit was on hold, and there is 10 days to request it.
I understand
and
their
the new
rules.
information that I was given after that 10
I
days.
understand their rules, but that's why they have this thing called the jurisdiction request, where you can explain why you couldn't within the time, and they can bring it to their board, and the board can say, oh, based on those circumstances, we may allow you to make a late filing, da-da-da. You can explore that with them. We don't have any power about that.
It's not an option.
Okay, all right. That's all I'm going to say about that. With regard to planning, again, I just want to be clear now that you were looking for everything on that case or that address, but in particular, that address, whether it was paper files, electronic files of any kind, or email. Am I correct that that was the scope?
Anything related to the address 480 Potrero Avenue.
Right. In any form?
In any form.
Okay.
And you have to know it exists in order for it to. And so I am still in
Understood.
possession of emails that I have sent them that
Okay.
they
No,
have
I'm
never
not-
been able to send me back.
I am not disputing any of that. I'm just trying to understand the universe. So I think what we would like them to do is to do yet another search of their records, paper, electronic, and email, using 480 Potrero as the search term for electronic searches. And if whatever they come up with, if it hasn't been produced to you already, they need to do that immediately. And if that's the sense of this committee, okay, then I will communicate that to them as the chair, and if we need to put that in writing to make that happen, or to respectfully request that that happen, if we're going to ask them to ask DT to construct a search of current or old email, whatever it takes to make that happen, that's what we want to have happen so that you can get the stuff. That's where I'm going with that part of it.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
I believe you've done it. 1, 2. It's not just those terms before you make
Doesn't
that
matter.
motion.
We'll try it again.
Hold on, because I had requested several consulting companies. If you read the lawyers, your
Understood,
lawyers.
but it's all related to that address.
Yes, but it may be...
Okay, whatever terms they need to use.
Well, whatever I had requested the terms that
Got
they
it.
use, and I used specific domains, the case number, so that they couldn't get around it. Also, because I'm trying to piece together what I believe to be is possibly a cover-up. And so even if
I
I could find
understand.
non-substantive communications between those
And you're referring
planners...
to your email of May 14th, where you're saying, hello to the task force, the matter is not resolved, da-da-da, all correspondence from SIA Consulting, Town Consulting, Kitchen
Yes.
Cabinet, Mitchell
Yes, yes,
Housing,
yes,
blah,
yes.
blah, 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 all of that, and you were extremely specific. So
And-
I think we've got enough stuff in the file to follow up on that.
Can I just finish with...
Go ahead.
Board Member Highland, you would ask what has gone on there. It's still an empty lot. They were only allowed to do anything with the lot since the Board of Appeals 10 days prior, so now it's clear for them to get the building permit.
And I think the Board of Supervisors looked at this in October as well, didn't they?
They looked at it from the environmental quality document, which is why I wanted these things, because it was that the project could have an effect, and they had knowledge that it could. The reason why I wanted to address what you had said was... okay, now I'm forgetting, but hold on. It was... You would ask what had gone on with the building. It's also... The willfulness part of it, to me, is that they've stood in front of the Board of Supervisors, and they've stood in front of the Board of Appeals, like they stood in front of the Planning Commission, and they have argued against me and my group while withholding this information, and the project has been approved in their favor. And so that's why when I said last time I've been damaged by this, it's because they knew the hand. And they said what they continue to say, whatever was the public story, and now they're giving some of the story, but they're still not complying with your requests. I appreciate your goal, Chair Pilpel, but I thought the order of determination was going to do it. I mean, I was skipping home that day thinking, yes, finally I'm going to get what I needed, and then it became clear, wow. It's still not happening. Even last week, I got the CD, and I got home, and then opened up Ben Fu's folder, and there's 7 emails inside. And then I see their search terms. It's like there's no willingness to comply. They're just stretching
Quick
it out.
question on the search term. I think when you see a search in quotation marks, it's specifically that. In brackets, it's usually, isn't it, derivations of avenue?
Oh, yeah, there's...
Unless their system searches it specifically.
It's an exchange server, so I could actually give them the string that
Right.
they need to use, but if you really wanted to find stuff, you would use 480 plus Potrero, and then you would put a asterisk, and an asterisk would be similar to Potrero, and so you would put the combinations to them. But even just Potrero for them, if they had other projects of Potrero that came up, I can sort through them.
Right.
But,
Okay.
yeah,
So-
thank you.
Well, that last bit was actually helpful. If you can submit both what you agreed to earlier with the summary of what's on the CD
And the search term
to
that you use.
Victor, plus the search term in whatever the specific is, maybe you can submit that as a separate email. Here are my requested search terms to help in this case. The sooner you can do that, I am happy to communicate that to planning to follow up. I am extremely persistent when I want to be, and I am particularly concerned about this case and getting you the stuff, okay? So
Thank you.
that's all I want to say about that. So I would propose that we make a further request to planning along the lines of what we've discussed, authorize me to write a letter if that becomes necessary to make this happen, continue this matter to January for them to both respond on the substance and to tell us at that meeting what they've done and why they haven't, da-da-da.
I'm good with all that. One
Okay.
quick question,
Keep going.
Micah, is as far as you can tell, what's the next stage of 40 Potrero? Where are they? Are they about to get approvals from?
I've filed at San Francisco Superior Court, so for me, the next stage is now dealing with the fine city attorneys of the city of San Francisco. For them, they are still undertaking environmental review, although it should have been completed with the Department of Public Health. They've complied to my public records requests, and so now trying to make sure that that's done adequately. Oddly enough, they were able to apply for a building permit even before the project was approved, and I don't know how that happened, and I never got a good answer. And so the case is open, and so now it's watching the permit number online, because there is a short interval to appeal that to the Board of Appeals, but as far as the plans and everything else, it's already been done, and yeah, for them, they need to jump a couple hoops, and then they can start drilling into the ground into serpentine asbestos without proper mitigation for, the surrounding community.
So they're getting closer to being able to start this project.
They now officially can.
What I'm worried about is us going through our process is going to get his group the information too late.
Again, that's why I don't want to just refer it, because if we refer it, then nothing happens. The sooner we can get this, the more we can get him as soon as possible, then he can do whatever he needs to do with it.
I still think we can do, we can get these extra pieces that he's asking for through our body, EOTC, but I think we should also still refer this to the February regular.
We can, and we will still have that option. Once we refer it to the full task force, then I think we lose jurisdiction at this committee, and we couldn't hold a further hearing on this instant complaint. We could as to the larger, but we sort of...
Once it appears on the full task force agenda, we lose jurisdiction, right? Is that how it works?
I think once we refer it out from here, then we've pretty much lost jurisdiction.
Okay, so I like your plan. Let's keep pushing.
Okay.
And then we still have time to get on to the February meeting.
Right. Again, I don't think we're in disagreement about this.
Okay.
And, it would have been a lot better had they been here and/or gotten the guy the stuff earlier.
Well, it's been 10 months, right?
No rush. We get it. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so...
I appreciate your all's help, and
Okay, hold
it's
on,
nice
let's-
to see that you're looking at this, but it hasn't been like how I thought it would be. I don't know why.
It isn't always.
I get that.
Okay, so given that we've got some proposed action, would a motion be more in order here, Victor?
Motion to continue to January 13th.
To continue with the understanding that we will make a further request, that I'll communicate that, and that we'll authorize a letter if necessary to memorialize that request?
I will make that motion if that's necessary.
Okay.
A second. And we're naming the new custodian of records in this?
We've added, the basic complaint, I think, is against the department with the named respondents at this point as Lulu, Don Lewis, Ben Fu, and I think we're going to add to that Tom DeSanto. And actually, let me think about this for a second. Why don't we leave it at Lulu, Don Lewis, and Ben Fu as to this particular complaint, and then what I want to do is open a new file on complaint about Planning Department public records procedures, and in that we will primarily address Lulu, Tom DeSanto, and Jonas Ionin. I think that makes the most sense so that we're dealing with both this particular thing and the broader implications, and we will hear that as well in January.
And that way in future we can move on both fronts.
Right. So new file on planning procedures.
Okay.
Also for January. Okay, does that make sense going forward?
Yeah.
Is there any public comment on this? Seeing none. Micah, was there anything else you want to add, or you get it? We're on this.
Board Member Oka and Highland, I want to thank you very much for you had very strong comments last time, and I appreciate that. It was encouraging to me, and so I really thank you for speaking up on that.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
We have a motion and a second. There was no public comment. Can we do that without objection?
Without objection.
Okay. So without objection, that's passed. I will communicate with them, and if necessary, put it in writing and follow up. And the sooner, if we can, even if we can get Micah the stuff before the next meeting, we'll still hold a hearing in January for them to explain why it didn't happen yet, why it didn't happen until this time, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, we've tried. So Okay, are we good with item 2?
Yep.
Okay, Micah, thank you again, and we'll look forward to those 2 emails from you to Victor.
Yeah, that's easy. Thank you.
Okay, great. Be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, that was the good news, and now let's move on to item 5.
Item number 5, status update, correspond to the clerk of the board, Angela Calvillo. Public comment, 150-word summary.
All right. Well, here's the bad news is I have started on this a couple of times, and I still haven't done it, and I absolutely am overdue on this, and it needs to get done. I asked Member David for some help. He did help me on part of it. I think I need to get some more help from him to get this done before the end of the year. I think this is going to be
If you can get that to me, I'll help.
Okay. I want to do this in a way that doesn't violate the Sunshine Law. All we're trying to do is kick out the letter that we agreed to do to Angela, asking her to reconsider or find some other way to move the 150-word summary from the attachment or appendix to the body of the minutes at the location. So it's a relatively simple letter, but for some reason I've had writer's block on this, and I apologize for that.
You know, it's beyond me why they're so dug in on this.
Well, I've acknowledged that we're sending the letter. I just, as I said, I just haven't done it. I don't know why either. There's just, but it needs to happen, and so it will happen.
No, he's talking about the Board of Supervisors, not you.
Oh, why they're dug in?
Yeah.
Oh, that's different. I can't speak to
It's
that.
beyond comprehension why they're dug in. We're not going to do it.
When do their terms change, Victor, do you know? Is Angela Calvillo about to move on to something else at the end of this month? Do you know?
No, she serves at the pleasure of the board and
Okay.
has been the
I'm just
clerk
wondering
for
if they're
6
just,
years or so.
you know, they just don't want to deal with this because they're about to change administration or something.
No.
No.
I mean, they did give us Victor in trade for Andrea, so, I mean,
that's
there's
right.
that.
Is that? I'm talking about this issue.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Okay, anyway, so my commitment is to try to get this done by the end of the year. I will redouble my efforts on this. It's a letter and it needs to happen. If, Bruce, if I need your help, and can do it in a way, we'll do that.
Okay.
I wanted to continue working with Member David since I was already on that, and I don't want to get into a sunshine problem, but as I say, I know that it needs to get done. It will get done.
If you were to send us both a copy, are we in violation of sunshine?
They come through me.
Right, I would not send it directly.
Right.
Let me, if I need to talk to Celia to see how to do that, I think if we send you out a draft, that's not a problem. It's if you send comments and if we do back and forth on it outside of a meeting, that's a potential
As long as it goes through
problem.
Victor, then we're okay.
Maybe not. If we're doing that outside of a meeting, that may not be kosher either. We'll figure out a way to do it. I would prefer that I can just do it and get it done, and so I just kind of need the right
It'd be
motivation.
nice if you just get it done before the end of the year. Just
That's where we're trying to get to. So, all right. Anyway, whatever needs to happen, we'll make that happen.
Will we see it before you send the final version?
If we need to do that to make it happen, yes. Otherwise, you'll get a copy when it's sent. I mean, the content, I think we all know that it's just sort of putting the words to paper.
Right.
That's what hasn't happened. Okay. Is there any public comment on this? Seeing none, I think the response is it just needs to happen, and so we discussed it. Nothing further.
We will conclude this item.
Excellent. Okay. That's it on item 5. Item 6.
Item number 6, public comment. Members of the public may address the committee on matters that are within the committee's jurisdiction but not on today's agenda. There are no members of the public in the room.
Yes.
And therefore, there's no public comment. Item 7.
Announcement, item 7, announcement, comments, questions, and future agenda items.
Okay, so members, anything new to put on the queue at this point?
Yeah, I don't know what the official proper procedure to do this is. The thing is on the time limit for speaking. The ordinance, the Sunshine Ordinance, does not put the onus of, what I'm trying to say is it's 3 minutes, up to 3 minutes, and it's not up to the call of the chair or the commission president to change that. But since the city attorney's office has forever been teaching that it is the call of the chair as to the amount of time each speaker gets, I think we need to tell the city attorney can't do that,
Okay, so,
or else you got to change the ordinance.
okay, so let's not talk about that today, but let's list that 3-minute limit for public comment as a request for a future agenda item. I think it's fair to say that we're pretty booked up for January, but unless something changes, why don't we try to talk about that for February?
Okay.
Fair enough?
All right.
Okay, but we're happy to talk about it. And I think we can have some good dialogue about it. So I'm open to discussion.
And the city attorney would prepare something to that?
They may not. We may need to start out and flesh out the item that we can then send to them and say, here's what we think, what do you think of what we'll talk about when we talk about it. So, and we'll figure out if we need to do something beforehand. So I got that as an item. Bruce, anything else? No? Okay,
That's
good.
it for me.
All right. Chris, anything?
That's it?
Okay, so again, we'll try to do that for February. Just to summarize what I think we have for January, we had the follow-up from the clerks and the Arts Commission, possibly with Deputy City Attorney Vera invited. Hopefully that may come together for January. And then the 3 things from today, which became 4, the Planning Department Micah Ringel issue, the Planning Department procedures, Chapter 12L memo, and the update on the website. And so we may have gotten somewhere with the website, the easy fixes, and then we may have some further discussion on the things that will still be outstanding. I do not expect that the entire website's going to get fixed in a month. That's not going to happen.
No, that, I don't think it'll happen.
Okay. So that's what I have for January, and, hold on, February, 3 minutes, and what else? There was something else we said we were going to do for February. Oh, the Budget Committee, the Chafee complaint follow-up.
You want that one for February?
Right. Because by then we'll know who the Budget Committee chair is, and we can get their staff and start to talk about the Budget Committee.
Has that been referred to us?
Yes, it has.
It has, but I don't think the order's been written yet.
The order has not yet been written.
Okay, but it's in the works. The wheels are in motion. So I think that's our work plan for January, February for the moment. If there's something else that comes up in January, we can add that to February, but I think we're pretty good for at least January and probably most of February. Some of this stuff will get put off.
Okay.
Okay, are we all good
All right.
for the holidays?
Yeah.
Victor, anything else in terms of calendar, scheduling, anything?
I do not have anything.
Okay. Our next regular meeting is January
13th, I believe.
13th.
I'll be absent.
You will not be here?
No,
It's not nearly as fun without you.
not be here.
All right. But you'll come back. You'll be here before?
I'm just traveling that week.
Okay, all right. We wish you Godspeed in your travels.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any other business before the body?
That completes the agenda.
At 4:47 p.m., we are adjourned.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.